All right, we're live. Buenos dias, familia. Good morning, family. How are y'all today? Good. We got a big crowd here in Kiowa, Colorado, and if this is your first time joining us in person, welcome. We hope you have a good time. There's a few hard and fast rules we have here at Save the Cowboy if you are a first-time visitor. First is it's okay to laugh at this church. Like nobody will throw you out. Nobody will give you well, they might give you a weird look if you say. Our God is not dead. He's very much alive, and He lives within each and every one of us, and that's a cause for celebration each and every day. So I'm glad that you are here. If you're joining us online for the first time, welcome. We do the best we can. All we do, guys, a nationwide ministry. We rent a little fairgrounds in a little old town in Colorado, and we spend all of our money helping people, not making sure that the people here that their tushies are comfortable in a seat, right? Church shouldn't be comfortable all the time, man. This is where we get our playbook for the coming up week and everything, and it's going to be a good one today because I know that God's got some great big things in store for you today. So while they groomed his little alligator dog, I think Jay's been feeding that thing gunpowder and raw elk. No, Moses is fine. He's got a different way of showing you how he loves you. But while they were doing that, Jay came out to the shop with me because I've been trying to kind of clean a mess up because I'm really organized if I have to do something every single day. I've got every sermon I've ever preached. Right? If I do it every day, I'm very organized. I used to run a nationwide oil field company, and I was the head of all the inventory, over $1 billion worth. I'm very organized if I have to do it every day. If I do it once a week, I don't even know where I am most of the time. So I'm in there straightening up, and everything, and Jay comes out, and he visits with me. And anyway, I'm piddling around in Jay's, and we're just visiting, and I had said something. And he's like, hey, I've got a great verse for that. And Jay is like, he's got like 500 Bible verses memorized in the King James Version, right? And so he's like a walking Bible app, right? He's like, hey, man, I heard, I got a great verse for that. And he said, it's this one. And so I read it, and I was like, my gosh, Jay, that's an awesome verse. He goes, I know it is, isn't it? And I said, yeah. I said, you know what? I said, I like that verse so much, I might scrap everything and I might preach on that verse right there. I might just steal it from you. He goes, you can't steal it from me. It's not mine. And I looked at him and I said, well, I wasn't going to give you the credit anyway. I was going to give God the credit. And he looked at me for a second and he goes, duh. Today, we are going to be talking about the next big step in your life. The next big step in your life. Some of you might think this is weird because you didn't know showing up that you were going to hear a preacher talk about the next big step, and you've got a next big step coming. Right? That's how God works. This is confirmation that not only does God want you to take the next big step, but He wants it in a certain way. He wants it to be with Him and Him only. Just you and Him. Now, I'm not saying that you got to leave your spouse or anything like that, but what God wants for your next big step is maybe something that you hadn't done before. Let's just take that next big step. We're not worried about what anybody else thinks about anything. We're not worried about the repercussions. We're just going to take this next big step because we believe that that's the way God is leading us towards. Right? The next big step. The biggest step, listen, if you can get anything out of today's message, right? Get this. The next step you take is the most important step you will ever take in your life. Because everything else will come after that. Right? The next big step you take in your life is the most important one. Because everything else will come after that. Because, see, I think a lot of people, what they do is they imagine that they want to go north, right? But there's a river right there or a big mountain in the way or something like that. So they know they want to get north, but they just keep going east and west, right? They're moving, but you don't ever get anywhere. The next big step that I'm talking about is not going back and forth. It's overcoming an obstacle or a fear or whatever, taking the next big adventure, whatever that may be. The biggest step you'll ever take is the next one. And that will never not be true. Because if you don't take the next step, you're stagnant. You're dying. You're stuck. Today we will look at 3 principles that God gave Moses, not Jay's dog, the other Moses, Jay's dog's namesake, okay, that God gave Moses during their next big step towards the promised land. Deuteronomy chapter 2. Deuteronomy chapter 2. While y'all are clicking there, turning there, I want you to know that it only took me 12 times to spell Deuteronomy correctly. I'm getting better. My spell check doesn't even know how to spell it. Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 2. I'm going to be reading out of the New King James Version just because I like it the best for this verse. And the Lord spoke to me, saying, you have skirted this mountain long enough. Turn northward. You have skirted this mountain long enough. Let me ask you, is there anything in your life that you think God might be speaking to you about? You've skirted this mountain long enough, it's time to head north? I don't know what that is, but by the smiles and some of the shaking of the heads and the nodding and stuff, I think y'all know exactly what God's talking about with you. Okay? And the Lord spoke to me saying, you have skirted this mountain long enough, turn northward. At some point, I pray that you're going to hear God say, I said, I pray that you hear God say, I don't pray that He says it because I know He says it. I pray that you hear it when He says, hey, cowboy, cowgirl, I think you've been here long enough. Time to move north. Time to move north. Time for the next step. Head to your promised land. Now, to set the stage for this, what this is in Deuteronomy chapter 2 is Deuteronomy chapter 2 in 14 verses covers 40 years. 38 years to be exact. You've been here long enough, right? Well, what's long enough? Well, if you read down to verse 4, I think it's verse 14. I don't have it in my notes, but I think verse 14 says, this has been 38, we've been here 38 years, right? That's long enough. That's long enough. 38 years, right? It's time to move on. It's time to go do something else. It's time to go to the promised land, right? This is what they're doing. They're headed towards the promised land. You have a promised land. You have a future. We talked about the millennial kingdom, right? That we still have a purpose. And this life that we live now sets up what our future life is going to be, right? God isn't just seeing who's best at obeying rules down here. It's not what Christianity is, right? It's about following God. It's about a deep relationship. It's about following Him, not following rules. Head to your promised land. But listen, you have to understand that your next big step, if it's with God, it can't be in any direction. It has to be the direction He chooses. Okay? It has to be the direction that He chooses. It's going to be where He leads and where He goes. So, 3 principles for your next big step. 3 principles for your next big step. So we sat there visiting. And Jay finally asked me, and he said, what are you going to do when you get this part cleaned up? And I said, well, the plan is to move that chest freezer right there all the way over here and put it up against that wall. He goes, is it empty? I said, nope. He said, would it be full? And I said, it would. He said, is it just going to be us moving it? It is. It is. Hey, we don't need no commentary from the peanut gallery. It's my story. Yes, if it was as heavy as that would imply, it was. But I told him, I said, Jay, it's just going to be me and you. But I have a plan. He didn't seem as excited about my plan as I did. A few minutes later, Jay was very polite. He didn't say much. He didn't have to. But all he said was, just be careful. Just be careful. And that is principle number 1 that God gave Moses. Okay? Verse 4, Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 4. Be careful. Give these orders to the people. You will pass through the country belonging to your relatives, the Edomites, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir. The Edomites will feel threatened, so be careful. So be careful. Okay, who are the Edomites? They're the descendants of Esau. Who was Esau? Abraham had Isaac. Isaac had Jacob and Esau, right? They were twin brothers. Said that the younger would serve the older, or the older would serve the younger, and the Jews came from Jacob. The others came from Esau. So they're like distant cousins. But the Edomites and the Israelites all shared common ancestors in Isaac and Abraham, right? So that's why the Bible says you're going to pass through the country of your cousins, the Edomites, right? The first principle God gives is the command to be careful, okay? The command to be careful, but he explains why. The Edomites will feel threatened, okay? Now, why would they feel threatened? You've got a 2 million man fighting force fixing to come through your ranch. You think that might be a little bit intimidating? Because a 2 million man world superpower can take whatever they want, can't they? But God says, be careful because they're going to feel threatened. Now you have to understand, God doesn't, the Israelites have their own promised land, right? But he reminds them. He says, hey man, be careful when you go through there. Because that type of power can take anything it wants. But in your next big step, you need to be careful too, especially if you take it with God. Okay? You need to be careful. Because if you haven't already, you are going to experience somebody that is threatened by you. Okay? Somebody that's threatened by you. Because the power that the Israelites had was not in their numbers. What was it in? The God, yeah, the faith in God. Yeah, absolutely, right? That wasn't did they go send 2 million people against Jericho to knock the walls down? No. They sent some preachers out there with trumpets. And they marched, everybody just marched around the wall, the city 7 times and the walls fell down. See, people are going to be intimidated by you at some point if you have a deep relationship with God. Because see, the mighty God that lives within you is going to aggravate the demons that live in them. They will attack you for no reason. They will spread vicious rumors against you for nothing. They might have been a lifelong friend that now you heard that now they're telling all your other friends that, blah, blah, blah. Listen, guys, if you are a Christian, at some point it's going to happen. But it's not personal, okay? The mighty God that lives within you intimidates the demons that live in some other people, because when they see you in your faith and your integrity, what they see is everything that they're not. And instead of growing themselves, they're going to try to tear you down. So be careful. For the Edomites will be intimidated by you. And listen, here's another hard punch. Think about that for a second. That you know, somebody or your, and as you grow in your relationship with God and they don't, you outgrow them. You'll know you've outgrown them when you don't want to do the same things that they want to do anymore. Right? And then they start calling, oh, well, yeah, you're a Christian now, huh? One of the Christians now, huh? Better than everybody else. No, that's not it. See, you're outgrowing them. You see what I'm saying? Your next big step is important, but you need to be careful. Guard your heart. It's not personal when they hate you. They hate how your God that lives inside of you makes them feel. Be careful. Be careful, Jay said. As I lined it up, I told him, I said, it'll be fine as long as I stay right here. Right here. That's when Jay, in his infinite wisdom, he said, I hope it works, Pastor. Listen, when Jay calls me Pastor, it's like when my mom called me by my full name. It was Kevin until right then, and now it's Pastor. Being, you know, right? Verse 5, Deuteronomy. Do not bother them. Once again, we're still talking about the Edomites, right? Do not bother them, for I have given them all the hill country around Mount Seir as their property. Listen to what God says right here. I love it. And I will not give you even 1 square foot of their land. Think about that. This with them. They don't get 1 square foot of the land that I promised you. See, we got to stay in our own lane. God has remarkable. But we got to learn to stay in our own lane. This means that in your next big step, if someone else has it, you don't need it. Think about that. And really what I mean by this is when people grow in God, they start looking at other people that have grown in God, and they start wanting to have the same type of relationship that this person has, so they start trying to imitate how that person's relationship is, right? Now see, some people, like Jay can memorize, that's how he feels close to God. It's how he meditates on the Word. It is memorizing 500 Bible verses, right? 500. But that's how he grows closer to God. I got 2 memorized, and I get those wrong half the time, right? But that's not me. Jay has a different relationship than I do. So I can't copy the way Jay does things in order to get the same relationship that he has with God. You can't do it the same way I do it. You have to do it how you and God will do it together. Okay, that's why it's a... Others don't need amazing gifts, abilities, and skills. You're a child of God. You're a prince or princess in the kingdom. You've been given. God gave you extraordinary gifts. Use those if He's given the opportunity. God gave you extraordinary gifts, skills, and abilities. Surely He can find opportunity. Yes. You got to say yes. He's going to give you by thinking about the opportunity. You grow by taking the opportunity. Just stay in my lane. Myself, after it was at that moment right then that I put the pedal to the metal down on Cammie's golf cart. And me and Jay pushed an 800-pound chest freezer with Cammie's golf cart. It did not go quite as planned. Because, you scoot up to it, right, and you make contact, and then you punch it, and nothing happens. And then right before you let off, everything happens all at once. And we went from 0 to about 60 miles an hour in about the distance between that light and that light. I'd kill anything. I didn't. Stopped it perfectly. Had to move it this way, but then we had to turn it and slide it up against the wall, right? I couldn't figure out how to get a golf cart turned around in a porta potty or how to use the golf cart again. But me and Jay just had to manhandle it. But we're grown men and we got it done, didn't we, Jay? We got it done. Until. What are you laughing about, Jay? He knows what's coming. We got it pushed in there. I went over, sat down. Jay grabbed my prolapsed lung, shoved it down into the left side of my body because I was breathing so hard. And Jay grabbed the cord and went to plug it in, and the cord was too short, about this far. Jay was there. If Jay wasn't there, there'd have been a conniption fit thrown. I'd have kicked that freezer. But Jay was there, and I have to have some type of integrity, right? Oh my gosh, integrity is everything. Why? Because that's the third principle that Moses taught. That integrity is everything. Verse 6. If you need food to eat, listen, if you need food to eat or water to drink, humans or animals, if you need food, if anything needs food and anything or anybody needs water, you must purchase it from the Edomites. You must purchase it. Even water. You must pay them for the water that you drink. Right? God says to not take anything from them that isn't paid for. He calls us to have integrity and not take anything from anyone. But why? Why would He say that? What's the big deal? First, He tells us not to take anything from anyone because we don't need to, right? God either provides the way or the means. Okay? He'll either provide the water, or if He tells you to pay for it, He'll provide you with the money to pay for it. How did the Israelites get money after being slaves in Egypt for 400 years? Anybody remember? When they left, the Egyptians wanted them gone so bad they gave them all the silver and gold in their households. didn't make people fully funded for 40 years. Okay? Number 2, he calls us to this so that others will admire us, but so that God will be glorified. I mean, you think about it. Think about it from the Edomites. Here comes this giant who can take anything, anyone, anyway, anyhow, without even lifting a finger. And yet they're kind. And not only do they ask to buy food, they give us a good price for it, not just for them, but for their animals too. And not only that, they wouldn't even let their animals drink without offering them money for the water that was consumed. Surely your integrity, your integrity is a phenomenal example of faith. Your integrity is not so that others will think highly of you. It's so that others will think highly of the God that you serve. And until we get that right in our mind, we'll still skirt the mountain. We'll continue to just skirt. Having treasures in heaven. Because nobody, you realize that? Your integrity is the one thing that's 1%. When you get mad at a short word, a crazy look, what mad, your next step is the biggest step you'll ever take. Right? Here's 3 indicators. Number 1, you want to see a real good indicator of the status of your faith? How's your faith when you suffer? Because your faith when you suffer is more indicative than the faith that you have sitting here right now listening to a cool sermon. The health of your faith when you suffer is probably your baseline. Okay? But how you act when you get mad gives you a pretty good indicator of your base state, right? Because I know people, when they get mad, they just shut down or they just walk off. They don't ever say anything bad, nothing like that. That's good, right? Other people like me, they kick freezers. And then they get mad at Jay because Jay laughs. I took a deep breath, and Jay and I moved that freezer back out at about 4 feet the other way without the use of a golf cart. We did it. Me and Jay did. We got it done. It didn't go as planned or as well as I'd hoped. But I had great company and we got it done. I'll leave you today with the same words of encouragement that God gave the Israelites in verse 7. Okay? Remember, the same God that got you right now, that same God that got you this far is prepared to take you even further if you're willing to go. If you're willing to go. He ain't going to make you. He ain't going to make you. Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 7. For the Lord your God has blessed you in everything you have done. He has watched your every step through this great wilderness. During these 40 years, the Lord your God has been with you, and you have lacked nothing. The next step is the biggest step you will ever take. The next one always is. Father, I thank you for who you are. I thank you for giving us direction, God. We show up each and every week. I show up each and every week, God, and I'm just continually amazed at how much you guide us, how much you love us, how much you'll show us, how much you'll reveal to us when we come to you honestly seeking you and you alone. God, that's what we want, is a close fellowship where we walk closely with our Lord. It doesn't make us immune to the life's problems or sin nature, but it does offer us forgiveness and protection. Is the Lord of Abraham, Isaac, Jesus. And it's in Jesus' name I pray. Okay. On the cruise with us. April 5th through the 10th, we're going to Cozumel and somewhere else on a big boat. There's a bunch of us going. It's not too late to sign up. Not too late to sign up. We are going to have a conference call tonight. For anybody that's going to answer any questions that people might have or anything like that, because we're only a couple of weeks away. So if it's the same call in, if you need the number, get with the Carrie knows the number on all of that. And so get on the conference call tonight. Send us a message if you need the number and how to do it. It's going to be at 6 o'clock tonight, Colorado time, Mountain Standard Time. And we hope to hear you on there. So get out of here and go do something for God.